So today we are planning the dental prosthesis for a patient who is having jaw reconstruction with a fibula free flap with immediate implants and immediate teeth. This is the Blue Sky Plan software, and we're at the screen where you open the software and you go to model editing and choose the STL files to import. And these are the STL files from the virtual surgical planning session. So up here, it's asking you, how do you want to align these models? Don't align these because you want to skip alignment. These are already aligned. So at the bottom, click skip align. And so now we can see kind of the construct we've created here, and the first thing that catches your eye is this chin segment. Some people would double barrel this. I find that patients do surprisingly well without the double barrel, and she actually has a low perineal artery takeoff where there's not a lot of length for the fibula to do that for her anyway. This blue jaw, I'm going to change the color a little bit to give us a little more contrast. And so the idea here is that we take the patient's existing teeth and we're going to modify it and clone these teeth to turn it into a bridge to give back on these implants. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to cut away the part of the green that's over here superimposed on the natural teeth. So I'm going to select these green teeth, go down to cut, and then the contact area we'll fine tune a little bit later. And so we cut this away, and then I'm going to cut this second molar off next when it's done with this. And looks like that didn't cut. Oh, it's still thinking about it. And so I'll cut the second molar part off next. Just because we're not restoring that. And this model hangs down low over the fibula, so we need to shorten the height of that. So I'm going to try something maybe about that high. You want it a few millimeters above the fibula to have space for soft tissue and for multi-unit abutments. So when you get this error, do not click the don't show again, because you do want to see this every time you get this error. I'm going to click OK, and usually what this means is the mesh was not closed, which means the model is not completely solid, and actually we can see up into the inside of it here. And so the way we fix this is I'm going to go over to this model edit tab, make sure the green teeth are chosen, and go down to this close all holes, and this can repair that there. So I'm going to go back to the surfaces panel, and the contact area here is something that we'll fine-tune in Meshmixer, but we can do a little more here. There are certain tools where Blue Sky is better than Meshmixer, and then there are other tools where Meshmixer is better than Blue Sky. So I'm just going to go back here and close holes again, and then take a look from the front here. And one of the things we see here, if I toggle the green teeth on and off, you can see they kind of hit down below the contact area even. And so we need space there for soft tissue healing across there. And so I'm going to do something like that. And at this point, I think we've got that about as good as we'll get it here. So the other thing we're going to do is, because we're going to make this floating prosthesis, we're going to create a surgical guide. It's like a dental implant guide on these remaining teeth, but without implants. So up at model editing, I'm going to switch to advanced, which will bring up a guide panel tab over here. If you go up to if you don't have the same tabs, you can go up to this panels drop down menu and choose these. And so I'm going to start at the top, work our way down, and we're going to tell it it's mandible, and we have the correct model chosen, the quality I'm going to set to very high, and then we're going to go down to surgical guide and draw curve. So with this, holding down the shift key, I'm going to come along here and draw where we want to have this floating guide stent resting on the natural teeth. And as a general rule of thumb, we want to have this tooth that abuts the prosthesis exposed so that we can visualize this contact area. And so before we make this guide, I'm going to make some windows, and many times what I'll do is put a window at the front and back of these, which are not actually windows, but it's just a way to have kind of a nice clean flush edge on these. Well, the little arrow's disappearing. There we go. And so I'm going to put one of these up here. Then I'm going to put a real window in this area, which will be an actual window to give us a view to make sure that this prosthesis is seated all the way. And then I'm going to click over here in the far right, I'm going to click Create Surgical Guide, and it's confused because there's no dental implant. So just kind of click yes and save to go through this and tell it to yes, just do it anyway. And this part can it can take 3 or 4 minutes depending on your computer to process and make this. So I'm going to pause this and continue when the guide is back. All right, and here we are with the guide here in red. And so now we're going to export these into Meshmixer. And because of the guide, it will charge you an export here. And then once the files are exported, I'm going to open this in Meshmixer. And when these files are exported from Blue Sky, it exports them as one single file, all grouped together. So using Meshmixer, we're going to separate these out again here, and we're going to do that over here on the left at Edit, then choose Separate Shells. And it's going to think about it and separate these into the individual models, and it gives us this Objects Browser, which is kind of like our Surfaces panel in Blue Sky. And there's some of these things you can kind of click around and see where they are, and I'm going to get rid of some of the stuff hitting the delete key, like this ramus we don't need. The fibula segments we need. The implants are kind of separate pieces I'm going to get rid of. The abutment cylinders that are protruding through the teeth we still need. And so with this, we're going to now adjust these teeth. And so what we'll do here is actually I'm going to select all of these abutments. I'm going to hold the control button and select all of them. And then up here at the top left, click combine, just to combine them together in one file, which makes them a little bit easier to work with later. And you'll see that these abutments are 6 millimeters in diameter, and it's coming through the teeth in a couple areas. And so I'm going to select the teeth, and one of the things we'll do is kind of cover those up a little bit. And I'm going to do this sculpt, then go up to brushes. With brushes, I'm going to choose inflate, and turn it down the size a little bit. And there's different ways you could do this, and this is a simple way where because the teeth are selected, it's basically ignoring the other models. And we'll do a little bit of that, and we'll go back and smooth that out later. And here it inflates towards you in the screen, and so I may try to pull the gingiva up a little bit there, then we'll smooth that out. And then here, and a hole here is not the end of the world, because we're going to be injecting a white acrylic that's going to be filling that up. Then I'm going to go back in the brushes and choose shrink smooth. And while I've got the shrink smooth, I'm actually going to do this all around the teeth here just to smooth things off. And then we also want to use this shrink smooth tool up on the contact between the teeth. And to do that, these other objects are in the way. And so I'm going to turn them off just so we can see a little better here. And those blue lines can often mean errors. So I'm going to choose Analysis Inspector, and then Auto Repair All. Good, and it's repaired those. Those are usually gaps where the mesh is open, where you can see inside the model. So shrink smooth and shrink it down a little bit. Then the contact area is really this last area to smooth off here. So let's try something like that. We'll bring back in these other models and see. That's probably pretty good there. So now the next thing we're going to do is with these abutments, which are 6 millimeters in diameter, we're going to subtract them from the teeth to make the holes in the teeth. And so to do this, we're going to do this with a Boolean difference, or Boolean subtraction, some people call it. And one of the things we have to do is with the teeth, I'm going to click Edit, Make Solid. So these models could be hollow, and we have to make them solid for reasons I won't go into too much. But when you click Make Solid, it kind of dumbs it down and takes away some of the resolution. And that's because this is on the solid type. It's fast. I'm going to change it to accurate. Move this slider up a little ways and click Update. So that now we've brought back most of that high resolution. I'm going to click accept, and it's going to make a new model over here that says solid. So the other thing, we're going to do the same thing with the implant abutments here. So I've chosen them, edit, make solid. And since these are just these geometric shapes, we're subtracting, the accuracy doesn't matter, or the resolution. So I'm going to click accept. And it's created a solid new model over here also. So if I toggle back and forth, we can see these. So for this Boolean function, what we're going to do is first select the teeth, then hold the control button and select the second one, solid, which is the implant abutments. And then it gives you this new menu on the left, and you have these three Boolean functions. We're going to choose Boolean difference. And the Boolean means we're telling the computer what to do with two objects that occupy the same space. And we're going to do this Boolean difference where it's going to subtract the implant abutments from the teeth. And because we plan this with guided implants, the implant copings will be coming up through there. One finer point, these two check boxes, we need to uncheck preserve group borders and auto reduce result, then click accept. So now we've got this prosthesis, and and the last thing we want to do, if we want to make this a floating prosthesis, we're going to bring in this stent. But you know what I'm going to do first, because I want to have this slightly out of occlusion, I'm going to take these teeth and move the teeth inferiorly about 1 millimeter. And so the teeth are selected, so that's the fibula. I'm going to select the teeth, and I'm on my keyboard, click T for transform, and this new menu comes up. And for this, I happen to know it's usually the y-axis, not the z-axis. Where it says 0, I'm going to click -1 for -1 millimeter. And when I click this now, hopefully we'll see the teeth move down. Good. So they move down that 1 millimeter, and I'm going to click accept. And so that's an easy way to push these teeth down out of occlusion a little bit. And so now, there were the original teeth. You can see the difference. And so I'm going to bring this stent back in, and I'm going to take away these other things. So now if we want to create a connector, there's different ways you can do this. There's an add tubes function. The way I like to do this is I'm going to select the stent and go over here to sculpt, brushes, inflate. And I'm going to turn the strength up to 100, the size, I don't know, probably in the 30 range. And with this, I'm going to just draw. All right, I went a little too far. So I'm going to click Control Z to undo the last part. And maybe one more time. Yeah, good. So I'm getting it kind of down low there. And it's always coming towards you at the screen. And so we've got this arm. Then I'm going to go up to Meshmix. I'm going to choose this cylinder and drag it under the field. Don't drag it onto the objects themselves, drag it out to the side. And then, let's see. Oh, there it is. Then I'm going to click T for transform, and it's way out here in space. And you just have to play with that to move it back to your object. And then over here in this transform, under the size, I'm going to select all that, and I'm going to choose 2, then hit tab, 10, and then tab, then 2. And we're making this little, let me get back into view here. We're making this little attachment here, and I found that the 2mm diameter works nice for 3D printing, and it's pretty easy to just break these off or cut these off. And the first one is a little bit tedious just to get it in place there, but the nice thing about this technique, oh, it's inside the hole, so I'm going to move that out a little. But the nice thing about this is that once you get this first one, I'm going to click accept. Then under edit, duplicate and transform. So we got another one here. Then accept, duplicate, transform. And you can just put as many of these as you want to across here and just try to miss the holes. And accept. So now I'm just gonna, these are still separate models, and so I'm gonna hold the control key and select all of these together. Then at the top left, click combine. So now it's a single model that can be 3D printed. And finally, it's a good idea to click analysis before you export and use inspector just to check it to make sure there's no errors. Then you export this and you're ready to 3D print.